You're muted.
Yeah, give me just a second.
I just got it going to try to build some audience. Can't I get rid of this damn thing? There. Craig, hey, nice to see you. How are your babies doing? James Green. Craig, if you would like to come up, we're you know what, we need to post that link on the chat. Let me go pick it up and do that. That link on the chat. Oh good, I'm getting feedback.
Yeah, so I just unmuted here. I'm just trying to click on all the buttons. Got too many screens in front of me.
Yeah, that's kind of what's happening here. All right, let's see. Let's see. Okay, I posted the link in StreamYard, which means it's going to show up in YouTube.
Yep, I see it.
So
what's going on, Cody?
That'll give people a chance to come over and be with us. The live chat is occurring in a different format or a different utility server because it's better.
Yeah, the video portion.
Where the Discord server live chat is it's not very good quality. You know what's a problem though?
What's that?
I don't know. I need to try to get hold of RJ and maybe a couple of others.
And yeah, RJ's used this, so he shouldn't have any trouble joining.
I know. I just want him to know where we are. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to post the link directly to some of these guys. First class fish. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm not telling what the link is, so they're gonna get a surprise. So let's see if we can get him over here. Here's RJ.
Are you doing a live stream tomorrow night or no?
No, Saturday night. Gotcha. And that'll be with EJ. What's here? Cody. Hey, Cody. RGR Nature. RGR Nature. Let's see. That's it. Craig says I'm still in bed and lights are off. Ah, he's he's an Aussie.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, we need to do morning. Well, what? He's obviously aware, looking at his phone and or whatever. Another guy who lives on YouTube, like me. We got like 10 people in.
There's not much else to do then. Live on YouTube these days.
Yeah.
If you go outside, it costs you hundreds of dollars.
Oh man. Yeah, I did a little shopping trip today and yesterday. It was $150 a pop each time.
Yeah.
And I didn't get much.
I was gonna say you came back with 2 grocery bags.
Yeah, if that. I'm looking for here's a couple of guys who are pretty active on Discord. Let's see if we can get them to pop in.
I seen RJ was on earlier. I don't
I
know if
saw
he's
that, yeah.
what he's up to.
Well, I guess he's feeling better. Dallas. Zimmerski. Rohan. Rohan is another one of those people on the other side of the earth. He's he's between India and China
Hmm.
in
I'd have to look at a map there because I'm gonna zoom out and look and see where you're talking about here. India and China. Well, there's a lot of land in between.
yeah,
There's not too much.
the Himalayas.
Yeah. Nepal, Bangladesh,
He's not in Bangladesh. He's in
Manipur.
he's in Himalaya.
All right.
Is that right?
You got me. There's a whole bunch of stuff over here. Yadong country. Whatever happened to the guy that was in the Philippines he was gonna breed guppies? Has he
Thomas.
ever been back around?
I haven't heard from him in about a week.
I know he said last time or the only time I'd seen him, he had just got Wi-Fi or internet, something
Yeah,
along those lines.
it may be. It may be not real. Something.
Yeah.
That's usually what happens.
Grand Wood says, I'm lurking here on YouTube, phone dying, so I probably won't be active in chat. Well, that's not good. Yeah, my phone was dying. It was at like 10%. I charged it for a half hour, so should be okay for a minute.
Glitchaquax. Hello, hello. Elizabeth Angus, nice to see you. friend of mine posted a video today. Alex, this secret history living in your aquarium is his channel.
Hmm.
He's been just exploding for the last 6 months or so. He's gone from about where I am a year ago,
Mhm.
33,000 subscribers as of today.
Yeah,
He's really jumped up.
I
But
think I'm at like 29, but I don't do anything with the channel.
he posted a video about a tank that in which all of the plants or most of the plants died in a very short period of time, a matter of a week or two.
Did he have fish in the aquarium or?
Yeah, he did, and the fish are fine.
Hmm.
So it wasn't what you would expect. You know, it wasn't overfeeding. He was away, and his wife was taking care of things, but he said he's sure she didn't do anything that she was not instructed to do. And I think that's probably true. I don't think that's the problem. His substrate was tropical soil mixed with some gravel and charcoal, I think, or carbon, capped with sand. And I don't think he had anything else in there. He was dosing with with tablets, with what am I trying to think of? Fertilizer tablets.
So you suspect he got a bad tablet?
No, no. I think what happened was his substrate was depleted of vital trace elements.
Now, what I didn't catch, did you say how long he's had that aquarium?
A few
Or how long
years.
he's had it going?
It's been set up maybe 4 or 5 years.
So what do you think caused that? Just because he didn't mix it right in the first place, or you think it has to do with the soil he used?
I definitely think it's the soil he used.
Right. So
Definitely.
you said like a tropical soil, is that what you said?
Yeah, I don't remember which one, but one of the commercial products that are sold in the fish stores as substrate, nutritional
So
substrate.
yeah. So basically it's cut with a bunch of filler.
Well, it is filler that has um, nutritional injection, and it's usually chemical injection. It's not biological. And so over time, it turns to mush and it becomes depleted.
Yeah, I've
Like
seen that they sell those like compressed balls or whatever is something that they always have that they're trying to push on everybody. Those little compressed,
yeah,
they're
that's
like
right.
super light. They barely even sink.
Yeah, and the problem is they're not soil. Now they can become soil with enough material precipitating into it over a long enough period of time. It can build a soil layer. But I don't think he had all that much waste. He made an interesting comment. He said, if I were feeding the way people normally feed, it might not have happened. And that's probably right, because the food would have provided, if he were feeding every day, which he was not, he was feeding a couple of times a week, maybe twice a week, maybe three times a week, and feeding sparingly. He also was not doing very much in the way of building a food web. A little bit, but really not substantial.
So you think that he just didn't have enough going on in the tank to make it work long term? 4 or 5 years, that's still a pretty
Yeah,
long time to
exactly.
have it going. You would think
Well,
that's just
right.
weird.
Except that, except that this tank has been going for 20 years.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking like all of a sudden after 4 or 5 years, all the plants die in a week or two. That seems a little fast though for them to die if they're being depleted of nutrients. Wouldn't you notice before that that they're starting to
Well,
have some sort of problem?
if you know what you're looking for, and that's really the problem. This is an area that little or no attention has been given to. We don't know. And in fact, it's not only true of aquatic plants, it's true of agriculture in general. Agri- uh, Organic farmers are only just beginning to understand the effect of specific elements like magnesium on the plant and the need for various elements at various stages in the life of the plant. Like when a plant is building trunk, building stem, growing leaves, uh, setting fruit, swelling fruit. All of those different stages require different elements, and that's really new research.
Craig says his flue wall soil tank didn't melt. It was actual. He said it was all cultures and has grown to full tank in under a month. It looks amazing. And then some other stuff. He said feed more. And
Yeah,
RGR says,
give
good.
it a few years, Craig. It'll change dramatically.
Yeah, so CO2 is an interesting one. Glitch asks about Glitch Aquatics is asking, didn't it have something to do with the CO2?
Well,
I didn't see the video, so I don't know.
he talked about that. He talked about CO2, and he spent a lot of time talking about the morphology of of the stem plant, nodules on the plant, and the way in which the plant goes through different kinds of growth spurts depending on now his orientation. His take on it was that it grows depending on what's available to it, which is a little different from growing based on what it needs.
It's just weird to me. So I guess I wouldn't understand how CO2. I guess I haven't done any research into the whole CO2 thing, but how after 4 or 5 years would you all of a sudden have a CO2 problem, whether it's a depletion or you know, the other way? How does
Well,
that work?
CO2 goes to photosynthesis. That's that's its function. It's a matter of the plant being able to take up carbon, and it does that when it does photosynthesis. So it's possible that the carbon got depleted. That seems unlikely,
Oh, okay. I see what you're
but
saying.
it's certainly possible.
Hmm, interesting.
So CO2 infusion is they're gonna absorb that and make carbon, break the molecule, release the O2, and use the carbon to build to build stem wall.
So Glitch Aquatic says that she was using DIY CO2, and when she stopped, suddenly the same thing happened to her aquarium.
Yeah, the thing that's I substrate, a deep substrate creates a huge amount of CO2. If there's a lot of organic material in it, it creates huge volumes of CO2, which are taken up by the roots. Rarely does, if you got a good sand cap, that's not going to escape much into the water column. It's going to pretty well stay in the substrate and be used by the plant through its roots. Now, if you're feeding CO2 as as um, an air, dissolving it in the water, then you're changing the way you're providing a vehicle to the plant for absorbing CO2 that does not require it to take it up from the roots.
Right. So it basically grows in that pattern, gets used to taking it up that way, and it's not able to just flip a switch
Yeah,
and go the other direction.
not quickly. It
Right.
will make the switch. And one of the things he was mentioning, he talked with a botanist, um, and they came to the conclusion that the roots to these plants are probably fine.
Hmm.
And they so he's gonna do more nutritional injection with fertilizer in order
Let's
to
see,
provide
what happens.
nutrients. Yeah.
Glitch says, so those air pockets I see on my deep substrate are good.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, they're nitrogen.
And then RGR Nature says, seems like the plant would easily adapt to lower CO2, melt a little, but not just outright die.
Well, it lost a lot of leaves. I don't know how many of them. He said some of the stem plants did die. Most of them kept their top leaves and dropped everything else. And that would be a pretty good signal. That happens in nature, particularly to plants like Bacopa and Ludwigia. They'll once they hit the surface, the availability of CO2 is so much more profound that they explode on the surface. They grow very quickly once they become immersed, and they drop all the leaves that are in the water. They don't need them anymore.
Right.
So they're a waste, and they drop them.
That's funny.
So it changes the character of the plant. In other words,
I had a question, but I lost it. I got distracted reading the chat.
we Alex and I talked about this. We did a couple of texts back and forth. I want to get involved with them some more on it because I think this is really a vital area for us to be working on in our tanks. My approach is to build the substrate, to build it with organics, and to build it with trace elements. There are a whole series of trace elements that are absolutely critical to plants being able to thrive. And typically, they're not provided, which is another reason why people are not successful growing plants.
RGR Nature says that sounds like a lighting issue. Plants blocking the light to the lower leaves. You think that's has anything to do with it, or you think it's the
Now,
CO2 mainly?
well, that's probably involved, but the reality is that once the plant comes up above the water level, its growth absolutely explodes. It's exponential growth because it's got direct sunlight, not filtered through the water column. It's got all of the CO2 that it needs. It's getting its nutrition basically from the roots, but it's getting its carbon then and its light to be able to do photosynthesis from the environment. And the amount of light it gets above the water is substantially more than the light it gets in the water. So yeah, in a sense that's true. But what the plant is doing is saying, "Whoa, look what I got!" It's fallen into the rabbit patch of a carrot field, and suddenly it has all of the uh, all of the light, all of the direct sunlight to be able to do photosynthesis, all of the CO2 that it could possibly need. It's no longer living impoverished in the water. And so it just explodes. And all of it stops sending energy to the leaves that are not being productive. So those leaves just they die off. The stem's healthy, plant's healthy. It's not that the sunlight is blocked. It's that the water, well, it is and it isn't. It's that the water is blocking the sunlight in a way that the air does not. So the plant takes advantage of that new environment and gives up on its attempts to do photosynthesis, which is the function of the leaves in the water. What are we on here? Kind of like the dwarf aquarium lilies once they get out, put out a pad. Yeah, that's right.
Do you have the video
Right.
portion open? Yeah, my bad. I think it was muted. Thank you. Do
Uh,
you have the video portion open in case somebody tries to join? You can admit them.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, you can. Let's see.
You can make me a moderator.
Yes, we did. Oh,
Click on my name and make me a moderator if you would.
Yeah. Hold on a minute.
You would actually click on participants. It's over, like hover over me on the right hand side. On the right hand side of the screen, there you go. The three little dots in that blue box.
Now I need to make this smaller.
And then you go to back to the little tiles at the bottom, the four little squares. There you go. Magic. Speaking of magic, how's the audio tonight and video for everybody? We've made a whole lot of changes, and Father Fish has a different computer now.
Yeah, it's feeling pretty good, isn't it?
You can actually navigate between windows.
Let's see. Nature growth start efficiency or CO2 and light above. But nutrients below the right stone.
No, you couldn't slap your mama on that popcorn.
Yeah, Glitch Aquatics make a valid point. It's such a pain when I forget I'm filling my father fish tank and I pour too hard a stream, water stream, and plus the catch. That's the problem.
I see you've got more aquariums set up in the background. What kind of fish do you have in your aquariums there?
Hardly any. I've got an order of fish coming. I have on the stream are some shiners I got in Virginia. The top two tanks really don't have any. The other three tanks don't have anything. Nothing to speak of anyway. Um, I'll be getting fish this week, so I'm gonna have some nice stuff.
Are you
Looking forward.
do you propagate plants at all to sell or no?
Yeah, I do. I also buy plants from a farm and get them going in my tanks. So kind of both.
I'm gonna hit RJ up, and I know you already messaged him, but I give him a hard time. So I thought I had another dwarf gourami problem earlier. The past, well, now I'm just paranoid. Anytime I see him hanging out around the bottom of the aquarium, I get irritated because I'm like, great, he's gonna die. And then I come back and he's in my 10-gallon that I've had the
Right.
dwarf gourami die.
Yeah.
No, the freshwater. The freshwater. Yeah, the dwarf gourami that I had in there have I think I've lost 3 so far. Yeah, I've lost 3. But in the past few weeks, everything's been fine. There's a blue one left, like a neon or something, and then there's a flame tail. And they've been fine. They've been up hunting and eating, and everything's been good. But every once in a while, I see the blue one hanging out at the bottom of the aquarium, and it's like, oh no, is he like getting sick? And then I go back in there, and he's gone. He's up hunting again, so I'm just paranoid now.
Yeah.
I try not to look at the aquarium.
Yeah. Let's see. What else we got here? Brian Carroll is saying things seem great as of now. Oh, that's good. Where do I get my fish from? Good question. Farmers, hobbyists, and wholesalers. I don't
that's a trade secret.
Pardon? Trade
So that's a trade secret.
Right. Farmers, hobbyists, and farmers breed people have got specific things that they're doing. I'm going to be in the market pretty quick here for about a dozen male bettas and about a dozen female bettas. And I'm going to want to try to get as much variety as I can.
Are you going to breed them?
Yeah. I'm not going to do oddball bettas. They'll all be splendens. But I'm going to be looking for a variety of color and fin pattern.
Did I tell you that the dwarf gourami taught the female betta that I threw in with them in that 10-gallon? They taught her how to hunt. Like she would not. I had to feed her, but after being in there for some time, she's so cool looking. She like swims a little bit, points up, spreads her fins out, and just stares at the top, and then she'll swim a little further and do the same thing. And I haven't fed them since, it's been a while. It's been a
Nice.
couple weeks. So it's pretty cool watching them teach each other how to hunt, though. I've noticed that in that little community tank that they've all taught each other how to hunt for food. So it's pretty cool to watch.
That's neat. Yeah.
So. Glitch Aquatic says, Father Fish, is there such a thing as too many tannins? I accidentally added too many maple leaves and it's pretty dark, yet clear. I know what he's going to say.
Well, say it. Say it, Luke.
It's okay to add them, but you should add them slowly.
Well, that's true. And the other thing is, it's really, it really comes down to a matter of personal preference.
Yeah.
Some people like dark water. You notice those two top tanks there are pretty dark.
Yeah, the thing I've heard you talk about a lot is if you're going to add leaves, that you should basically the gist of it that I get is if you're going to add things to the tank, add them slowly enough for the microorganisms and stuff in the tank to keep up with what you're putting in.
Okay, here.
Oh, RJ's here. So, make
There
sure
he is.
you allow the aquarium to keep up with what you're doing. What's going on, RJ?
It's too easy to throw a bunch of nutrients in a tank. It'd be like overfeeding.
Right.
Or you put a whole lot of leaves in a tank that's not prepared for it, and it would be like putting a whole lot of food in the tank. You're putting dead organic material in there. Now it breaks down more slowly than prepared food would, but it does break down. And if the organic community that's in there is not prepared for this, it can be overwhelmed. So you just want to take your time and go slow. You can build it up to the point where you've got a manufacturing facility, but
yeah,
you shouldn't
something that's
try to
odd
do it in a week.
Yeah, something that seems a little harder to me is getting that food web started, which I know you've talked about that, and going to a pond and getting something to get started. And it really makes sense to culture something to put in the aquarium to start that life cycle, because in a saltwater aquarium, I feel like they're easy because I get live sand, I get live rock, and I'm putting a bunch of stuff in a tank to start with that has a lot of biodiversity and microorganisms and hitchhikers and everything in it. And
Right.
that kicks off, and then all I have to do is add a little food, a little extra food, let them explode. They take care of themselves and they balance out after a short period of time, I've noticed. But in a freshwater aquarium, you have to add it. You have to add something that adds that.
Sure, you got to bring it in. You're doing it anyway with the salt. You're just not as aware of it. With the freshwater, it's too easy to get a sterile environment.
What I would add on that is that one of the things that we have as a resource, most of us do, is our own aquariums that have been established for years, or the aquariums of friends. Again, I've mentioned it before, but my bacteria culture that I've been using in the aquariums behind me is over 45 years running that I've had it running. Okay, I set it up in college, and I have cloned the bacteria from my college aquarium through move after move after move, and in some cases I only had barely a fish bowl that kept running, or one aquarium at a time, and that spawned aquariums after that. So
right.
The same culture that developed or started in my college dorm room is the one that started when I had 40 fish tanks running. That was literally the spawn of 40 fish tanks, and now is still I basically shut down, but I had tanks that didn't dry out. Believe it or not, the culture lived for several years with no fish. Just had fish in it; they sprung back to life. In another
Isn't
tank,
that crazy?
I had guppies going, and I kept that culture going. Although that tank went bad, but these tanks here, although there was no fish in them for 3 years, when I put fish in, away they went. So your bacteria can survive as long as it stays wet, pretty much. And if you're starting a new aquarium, you can talk to the guys in the pet shop. They may have an aquarium that they've got set up for 10 years. You can phone a friend. One guy I helped set up, he bought his fish from a breeder. I said, go down to your breeder, get a scoop of his gravel, get something from his aquarium, some plants, throw it in your tank. And he went from a disaster to a perfectly stable aquarium in 3 days, and he's moved that into 4 more aquariums since.
Yeah.
So he's taken that bacteria that his breeder had going for 10 years, wherever he got it, who knows. So you can get at least your bacteria culture, a lot of your microfauna from an existing tank. And the best part of that is it's already adapted to living in an aquarium.
Right.
Rather than some of the stuff you get out of a pond, you bring it home and it dies because it needs daylight. It needs, more of a food web than you've got. So, although you can get good things out of a pond, your best starter culture is out of somebody's old aquarium. If someone comes by my house and says, "Hey, dude, can you part with, a teaspoon of gravel?" Sure, no big deal.
Right.
And that would get someone started for 50 years. Literally, get them started for another 50 years of aquarium keeping.
And you can't buy that in a bag at the store.
Not really.
They don't have enough sense to sell it to you.
Most will give it away. When I started my saltwater tank, being saltwater fish are expensive. I always went into the store and went to one of their invert tanks because there's no fish in there, and there's less likely to be parasites. And I'd say, with that flame angel fish, I would like a cup of gravel. And I never had a store say, "Oh no, we won't sell you a $65 flame angel fish to avoid the gravel." That's never happened before.
Sean says, "How do you effectively move bacteria from one tank to another?" I think you kind of hit on that, but I'm not sure if you caught that.
Well, easiest way is to take some of the substrate. Okay, the more the merrier, but even a teaspoon of it will do. Okay, take some dirty gravel. If you don't have dirty gravel and you're like I am with using canister filters, just grab some filter floss, take a handful of filter floss out of your filter and dump it in your new aquarium. Let it be dirty, but it's instant culture. Another way could be you'll move some with plants, but not a lot. Or a sponge filter. For those of you guys who use sponge filters, take your sponge filter, your new one, put it in your old tank for a week. Let it run there a week. Feed the fish. Have a blast. Feed them a little extra. And then take that filter and put it in your new aquarium, and it's going to come with microfauna. It's going to have bacteria. It's going to have fungi. It's going to have all the good stuff in it.
But basically, anything that looks dirty in your tank that you can move to your new clean tank is what you should be moving, because it's funny. What is the thing called that has the float on it? They usually have like a little gauge or whatever for testing the salinity. They're the cheapest one you can get.
Hydrometer.
Yeah, hydrometer. So I had one in my first saltwater aquarium, and it was just full of stuff, full of amphipods, and had coralline algae on it and everything. So when I started my 5-gallon, I just picked that out of there and moved it to the new aquarium. And before you know it, I've got coralline algae on the glass. Everything is doing its thing. So move the dirtiest stuff you have.
I'm gonna add one footnote.
I'm gonna insist on being able to carry this to the extreme.
Oh gosh.
No, that's beautiful. But I'm just going to say one thing, though. When you're starting an aquarium, do yourself a favor. There's going to be a bunch of products that people are going to try to sell you because you're in a store, and that's what people do in stores. They try to sell you stuff. And their purpose in life is to make you walk out with more stuff. If you're a salesman, that's what your boss tells you.
Right.
Don't be an order taker. Sell stuff. And they're going to give you things like, for example, these dechlorinators. You're starting at a new aquarium. Put the water in the aquarium. Just let it cycle a week or 3 days. Be patient. Okay, don't buy the fish the same day you buy the aquarium. Try to avoid that. Okay, set your aquarium up. Let it cycle a few days. And then put your bacteria culture in and get it started, or your microfauna culture. And don't use the dechlorinator. I have actually managed to kill my bacteria culture. I lost some very rare fish, including desert pupfish and rare fish, because I overdosed on dechlorinator. You know, I just needed that tank set up fast. And I was at a fish show. I was at a convention, and they gave me the dechlorinator for free. So I had a bottle of it, and I said, what harm can it do? And I took a whole wad of dirty filter floss and threw it in, and then squirted some dechlorinator in it. And a week later, everything's dying. I can't figure out why.
Well,
And then I check it, and the ammonia's through the roof. And
So
there's no way.
it used to be that. So what we used to do years ago was we'd get 5-gallon buckets, fill it up with the city water, and let it sit overnight, and then use it because the chlorine. We were told. I never fact checked this. We were told the chlorine would evaporate, but
It
now
will.
they use.
there are two issues. There are three or four, but only two are significant. Fluoride is not significant. If they're putting fluoride in your water, just hold your nose. If they almost everybody puts chlorine in the water.
Right.
A lot of municipalities will also put ammonia in the water. And the reason they do that is because it combines with the chlorine, which is a gas, and it wants to escape. And the ammonia grabs it by the foot on its way out, pulls it back in, and converts it into a brand new chemical called chloramine. It's a compound of
Well, aren't they?
ammonia.
Aren't they? Go. No, go ahead.
Okay. So if you need to talk to your local water company and find out what they do because you handle those in two different ways. The chlorine, unless they are putting so much chlorine in the water that it gags you when you drink it and it smells like the house is full of bleach when you turn on the faucet. And there are some municipalities that do that.
Yeah, ours is like
So
that.
much in that they've created a toxic brew with it.
So is the
Deal with
floor?
that is put it in the, put it in a container, not a container if it's loaded with chlorine. I mean, really heavy with it. If there's a strong odor of bleach, put it in an empty container, a 5-gallon bucket, a bathtub, whatever. Put an aerator in it if you can and let it go. In less than 24 hours, all of the chlorine will be gone. In truth, in an hour or two, it'll be
Most of
gone. Now, when I was in Venice, the head of the water department, was very conscious of that and very conscious of overdosing. So he did not overdose. He put a very limited amount of just chlorine in the water. What I found was the act of hosing it into the tank was adequate to be able to 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 evaporate out 100% of the chlorine. So it was never an issue. Now, here's the thing about chloramines. The way you deal with chloramines is with a lot of two things: aeration and plants. Aeration will break up the molecule, and
So,
the oxygen will evaporate out. The
well,
chlorine will be taken up by the plants. They absorb it directly.
The
so
ammonia.
while, yeah, so
And
while we're down the rabbit hole
the
of
ammonia, right?
chemicals being added to the water. So, for example, and most people don't realize this, you know, your water departments for your cities, they all put out these reports. You can get it from the city website, you can get it from the federal government too, but they report what they put in your water, how many parts per million of all these things. So you can get a result from that even without pulling a water sample. But they put fluoride in our water here. They put chlorine, which, anyways, they also put, is it phosphate? There's four total things that they put in it. One of them is used, yeah, one of them they put in to coat the pipes to prevent the leaching of the lead because some of the system still has lead water lines. So
What
they
they
try to get,
what
go ahead.
they're adding what they're adding in a lot of cases is a pH buffer or something to bring the pH over 7. The acid water will dissolve both the lead very slowly, but more importantly, the copper plumbing. And water companies have a lot of copper plumbing. So even iron plumbing. So they try, most water companies will try to keep your water at 6, 8, 7, some will even go up to 8. But the water's still soft. They're not hardening the water. They're just jacking up the pH, and you can knock it down pretty easily with a little bit of muriatic acid. I'm sorry, those of us who don't mind playing with muriatic acid use muriatic acid. Most people might use something more commercial, pH down.
Yeah,
But if you really want the cheapest way to reduce the pH in your water, get yourself a gallon jug of muriatic acid. That'll last a lifetime. And one of those plastic eyedroppers that's acid proof, and then drip the acid into the water, not the other way around, and it'll smoke just for fun. You'll actually get little puffs of smoke when it hits the water. But
really.
it's perfectly safe. Just don't get it on yourself.
So something
And by the way,
interesting on the note of pH. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I didn't advise anybody to do that. That's just something that you can do. So ask your parents first, kiddies, before you go out and buy a jug of muriatic, which is hydrochloric acid.
So something interesting on the topic of pH, since you brought up pH and pH down, that I learned recently, the testers that you can buy, they have little digital handheld testers and stuff on Amazon. Really inexpensive. But if you look at the actual tester itself, the specs for it, different testers are calibrated for different volumes of water. Now, I don't know if this is true other than I read this in the specifications for the tester, but it said up to 50 gallons, up to 10 gallons. And I'm assuming that it's only accurate within that range that they describe in there up to a certain amount. Wouldn't the I'm assuming they measure conductivity of the water, right?
No, they would be probably measuring the amount of electricity produced by
Resistance?
the breakdown of the material on the probe is my guess.
Okay.
How fast?
Well,
How is the acid?
I'll tell you how this
How's
came
the
up. We have
I'm sure.
we have customers that grow marijuana, so they grow this, and they have big tanks that they mix their nutrients in and whatnot. But these are hundreds of gallons and whatever, and they're cheap, and they get on Amazon and they buy a $25 tester. So the thing is only rated at least according to the manufacturer, to test up to so many gallons. And I looked, and they're all labeled that way. They're all rated for how many gallons they can test up to.
What are they
I have to
testing?
have
What are they testing?
play
pH.
with it.
Oh. Yeah, here's the thing about pH.
You know something? That's one of the,
If the pH is high and is, as JR was explaining, artificially high, which is to say the GH is relatively low, but carbonates have been put in it to push it up. If you simply put that water in a tank with plants and a deep substrate in a relatively short period of time, that pH is going to go down. It'll go down to 7.0.
quickly,
Yeah, below
very
that
quickly.
will be a function of what the level of general hardness is.
Well, and that was the other thing
It
they
will
were.
take care of itself. And here's the other thing: unless you've got fish that require very acidic water, putting them in hard water is not going to hurt them.
Well, there's a couple things. I want to address that second. The first one I want to address is the
This is called
pH meter.
getting
I'm
JR's
thinking, yeah, the thing about the pH meter is I would test it because I could see it as a marketing company. If I was a marketer and I was selling a $10 unit and a $30 unit, and I'm trying to explain why you should buy my $30 unit, I might say this is good for a 500-gallon system,
Yeah.
and this one's only good for
Well,
a 10-gallon system.
And my reasoning behind
We've
that
seen that with other things in the past.
I just assumed that they were measuring resistance in the water with the sensor. So I assume
No,
that.
you can't.
Okay. So
You
that's the
can't.
only reason that
You have
thought
to
it
measure
made sense. They
resistance
could
from
be
point
scamming us.
B. I would get the device and I would see if it's true. I mean, that's one of those things. If you actually bought one, then take it in your 55-gallon tank and then put it in your 5-gallon tank and see if it reads them differently. Okay. If it does, then I'm happy to be wrong. I just, I would be suspect on that. Now, as far as Father Fish, my edit on that is that when you move fish from hard to soft water, it's a very dangerous thing. They'll go into shock. What you're saying is fish can acclimate to soft water fish, many of which can acclimate to harder water.
That's true.
But if you take fish from really hard water
and throw them in soft water
and
they're going to die.
You're going to have a real big problem.
Oh yeah,
they're going to shock out bad.
That's right. So you don't want to use
that's a matter of
down. pH down should never be in a fish room.
Well, that was it. So on the point of pH down or the muriatic acid, so the issue that they were having, this is not related to fish, but the issue that they found is when they were heavily filtering the water, they had no buffer. So they would adjust the pH and they were just wildly screwing it up and it was all over the place. But if they used the straight well water, it was easier for them to adjust the pH because of whatever was in it was giving them enough buffer that they didn't have to make such large adjustments or they weren't getting huge swings in the pH by the time they got the water to the plants.
I just ran across this question today and was asked a very similar question today. This person managed to get an active substrate, which raises his pH to 8, and his tap water is 6.6. And he needs to do water changes. And now what do I do now? Well, I told him he was better off with 6.6 than having an active substrate that brings his tanks up to 8. But now what do I do? Because if I do a major water change, I'm going to crash my pH. What I do is I have a 20-gallon tank, although when I had my full setup, I had a 20-gallon tank, and there was constantly a 20-gallon tank with a power filter and I would mix my water. I'd fill the tank up every night, and then I would do 20 gallons of water changes the next day. But I'd fill it up every night. I'd put my acid in. I'd adjust my pH. I knew what my hardness was. I made my water so the water, I wasn't adjusting it on the fly in the fish tank. Okay, if you're gonna do custom water, you want to raise killies, you want to raise discus, you want to do desert pupfish. I mean, that's a wild fish. It wants pH, higher than salt water. It wants hardness higher than the ocean. You're gonna do this fish. It's a great fish. It's beautiful. It's rare, but it's also one of the few purple fish in the world that you can just have in fresh water. But the point being that you mix the water separately. You make your water, and then you take 5 gallons out and you put your 5 gallons in, and you don't turn your aquarium, or if you're growing dope, your hydroponic setup, into a chemistry lab where you're
Right.
where you're playing with pHs up and down.
Yeah, I recommend.
Consider, if you're gonna do custom pH.
I recommend no more than a 10% water change, unless you got a really good reason for doing more. Like if your water is foul.
So the moral of this story, from what I understand from RJ, is growing plants and keeping aquariums running is basically the same as growing dope.
Pretty. Are you suggesting we're all in the wrong hobby?
I don't know.
We have the skill set.
Yeah,
we're all in the wrong hobby.
That's
the
way
problem.
Less than the other. So.
Yeah, exactly. So,
the reality is, it's gardening.
Right.
It is. We're building ecosystems.
Yeah, exactly.
Aquatic or terrestrial,
exactly.
or if you're hydroponic, you're kind of in that building marsh system, basically.
Right.
But people don't get that you can do the right water for the fish. Okay, if you live in a place where your tap water is 5.0, and I haven't seen one of those yet, but if you do live there, and you've got to and you've got to raise guppies, and you're gonna raise guppies, and that's
and
what
they're
you
just
want
melting
to do.
when you put them in the aquarium.
You can do it, but you're gonna have to set up that extra aquarium or that 55-gallon plastic drum or whatever. Put a filter on it, put an aerator on it. Go out, get your crushed coral, put it in there. Go out and put some baking soda, put in there. Bring your pH, bring your hardness up. When it's 5 gallons, and use it as you need it for your water changes. And you can raise guppies even if you have, in the tropical rainforest where all your pH is 5. Same the other way around. You can make pH 5.
We've been dancing around it, I guess, in talking about pH and buffer and whatnot, but how important is it to worry about buffer in the first place when you get started? Because it's talked about a lot when you talk about reef tanks or saltwater aquariums, is KH, GH, and all that stuff. So I ignore it because it's over my head and above my pay grade. So what do you guys think about buffer?
If it's not where you think it ought to be, you're going to do nothing more than chase parameters.
Yeah, I'm not talking as much as chasing the parameters.
No, with buffer's different. No, buffer's different. The reason buffer is different is it depends on where you live. Where Father Fish used to live, he had hard alkaline water that had a lot of buffer.
Right.
Okay, this is basically, Florida is a gigantic dead reef, and it has lovely hard water if that's what you're looking for.
Right.
It's got buffer. It's got buffer for months. You put fish in the aquarium, that pH is going to stay rock steady. It's going to be a little bit high. But it's going to pretty much stay rock steady for a very long time. If you live where I live, where my hardness was 1, 0, or 2, I had pH 8 water with 0 hardness. So if I put it in an aquarium, a 5-gallon tank, let's say a small tank like behind me, for 3 weeks. It was beautiful. I had, I had nice water. After 3-4 weeks, the fish all dropped dead. Or the snails would first fold up. First, the snails folded up, and then the fish died. And what's happening is I ran out of buffer. There's not enough buffer in the water. So if you live in a place that doesn't have a lot of buffer, you do more water changes. You don't have to do a lot of high chemicals. You just keep putting the buffer back with the fresh water.
There's another solution, and that is to pay attention to what's going on in the substrate. If you set that up right with adequate buffer, it'll maintain a stable pH.
So I guess so. Then
That's
Father Fish's argument would be that if you mix your soil correctly from the get-go, and you add all the things that are required, the nutrients, the minerals, it is going to automatically keep that system in line where it's supposed to be and give it the adequate buffer it needs, without having
there
to
are
mess
some
with it much.
caveats. One of the caveats.
there are caveats.
You can't be taking the stuff out of the tank all the time and disposing of it. In other words, if you got filters in there, like canister filter, angle the back filter, even a sponge filter, and you're taking them out and cleaning them out all the time, you're taking all kind of nutrients and minerals out of that water on a continuing basis. You got to be willing to leave all that stuff in there and not be screwing around with the biology.
Well, that still brings me back to my same question that I asked the other day. So I've got the guppy grass and stuff growing on top, right? So my light on top is like a $30 Amazon special on the 10-gallon. The problem that I'm having is it doesn't come with mounts that elevate it enough above the tank. And right directly under the light,
Thank you.
I'm developing brown. So the guppy grass is not guppy grass. The duckweed. The duckweed is browning directly under the light, and then it's growing a little bit of hair algae there now. So what I did is I slid the light out of the way, but I'm gonna have to elevate it. I'm almost 100% sure that it's too close to that one little strip because of the way that the spread is on the LEDs. Am I wrong?
Yeah, LED is a straight beam. Unless you've got a concave.
It's an inexpensive one. It's just not spreading out. When
Yeah.
I had it taped up, and I had taped wooden skewers to the legs on it to lift it up about 6 or 8 inches.
Yeah,
Worked great for a while, and then it just fell apart.
right.
So I need to find another solution.
The only good duckweed is dead duckweed.
Yeah, really. I like LED.
No, I'm not in love with duckweed. So
Oh,
I
I,
know.
the fact that you're killing, I like LEDs, but not duckweed, so I wouldn't care. It kills the duckweed. Yes, that's
yeah, I was.
Well, I'm more
it's a
I'm
bonus.
more
duckweed
concerned.
earlier today.
I'm more concerned with the hair algae that's growing in that strip of duckweed.
Oh, you know
Hair algae
something?
is really easy to remove.
Yeah, just rip the duckweed out.
Pick it up. It comes in long.
Yeah, rip the duckweed out. That's the way to go. 100%.
Really?
2 thumbs up. Yes.
Not all the duckweed, just the narrow strip.
Frog spit controls.
You can't get rid of it all. It's not possible.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah, there is a way. I did.
Yeah, they fight for dominance.
No,
pH
I
down.
use
you're out-
a
you're out of
small wet vac, and I was able to get every single leaf with
You
that.
said that the other day. That I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty slick idea because I have a 2 or 2.5 gallon portable shop vac that has this little
Yeah,
tool that would be perfect for that. And
works.
if I ever
really
get
well.
fed up with the duckweed, I will. I'll go after it that way.
Bleach
Glitch
works.
Aquatic says, yeah, Glitch Aquatic.
Bleach
says
works too. That's
toothbrushes.
how I got rid of it the last time I had it.
I've got frog stick growing outside in a couple of
Don't
containers
put bleach in your fish tanks.
that had duckweed in it, and the duckweed's all
Bleach
gone.
solves everything, guys. Take your fish out, move them somewhere safe, take things out you want to keep, add bleach. Everything's gone. Start over, fresh start.
Yeah, yeah. You
Hit the
might as
reset
well.
button when all
Terrible,
else goes wrong.
terrible.
When you get 45 aquariums and one's going south, that's the easiest answer. But
Well, yeah. There's
and the
no point
fear
in
of,
a slow burn. You might as well just get it over with.
yeah, and imagine duckweed getting loose in 45 aquariums, and you know it's going to do it sooner or later. It's going to creep
Oh,
around when
yeah.
you're sleeping or traveling your night, or pollinize, whatever it does. It just slowly spreads around your aquariums.
Right.
I tried keeping it once in one aquarium, and then it was two, and then it was three, and then there was bleach, and then it was gone.
I got
So-
all of mine.
I mean, it doesn't
Only got
bother
5
me.
aquariums there.
You know,
I've definitely noticed that the duckweed, like I said, it helps prevent the growth of algae on stuff that I don't want it on, like the glass. So I try to keep it to a minimum, but I'm super, super paranoid and freaked out about the idea of removing it, because as I remove things that are growing from the tank, I'm removing things from the tank, which means eventually if I do that 1,000 times or 100 times or whatever it is, I have to add that back to the
Yeah, it's a
aquarium.
real issue. You need to put a goldfish in.
if you want something
like
nice
that.
as a floater, go with Rickia. Rickia is
I love
amazing.
Rickia.
Okay, Rickia is a phenomenal floater.
It's a
You
wonderful
can break it up. You get the depth you want. You can literally make a mat of it on top of the aquarium where the babies
Absolutely.
will multiply. It's an amazing plant,
How do
and
you spell it?
it's one I would definitely
I don't have any right now. Need to
RICC.
get some.
RICCIA.
There's a little bit of that's growing in the class, but yeah, there's I have a lot. Being I was out for
Yeah.
3 months.
It will not defeat duck.
That looks, yeah.
That looks pretty cool.
So, like I said,
But it's a nice.
I would look at Rickia. And by the way, Rickia will overwinter. You can keep it in a pond outside or in a jug outside or whatever.
Yeah.
It'll overwinter outdoors.
Yeah.
So
It's one of the few aquarium plants that you can actually keep.
Brian Carroll asked a question that I'm curious to hear. What happens? How do you get rid of beard algae?
You shave it.
Algae.
Yeah.
You shave it off when it
I'll
turns
tell you.
green.
I'll tell you how to get rid of it. Fall in love with it. Decide it,
Yeah, that'll kill it every time.
and it'll disappear.
Yep.
Oh,
There was a pet store when I was a kid that had it all over the store that loved it, and it would blow in the filtration. It was like beautiful. It was kind of greenish brown, but it would kind of like wave. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And I brought like 2 rocks of it home, and the pet store owner thought I'd lost my mind. And I brought it home and I put it in the tank, and I sat there cultivating it for a year. But after a year, there was maybe another rock that had turned slightly brown and had about 3 or 4 fringes. So the best way to get rid of it is try to grow this. Yeah, that's it. Try to grow this stuff on purpose. Good luck.
Yeah. So I have it on the. I have a piece of wood in the 10-gallon, and it was growing on it, and it was growing on it pretty. The whole thing was covered in it in the first place, and then what did I do? Oh, I added a nerite snail and 3 amano shrimp, and it's very minimal. Like I'd say it's probably at any given time it's probably 20% covered, so they keep eating it and doing their thing, and it keeps growing, and so far so good.
Yeah,
Excess.
it's not a super aggressive algae. It's not like blue-green algae, which will destroy your tank in no time.
Right.
It's but the thing is, take your take it out.
Why they call it old man?
Yeah, and that's it. If you're gonna just take scoop it out, drop it in a container of some bleach and water. One of my favorite mixes. If it's gravel or on sand, I wouldn't do that because sand could be porous. But if you've got like a quartz gravel, you can just put it in a bleach water mix until it dies, and then rinse it off and throw the whatever back in. So will that get rid of all of it? The answer is probably not.
I've
Maybe
never
light.
seen it.
If you reduce the
I've
amount of
never
light,
seen it
it seems to
create
like
a
a lot of
real
light. I
problem.
do.
Have you ever seen it create a real problem in a
No.
tank?
No, but I was freaked out so the wood that I put in that 10-gallon was in the 10-gallon. There were a ton of plants. There was a single betta, a male betta in there, and he started pine coning and he died. And we got paranoid and just scrapped the whole tank, took the wood out, cleaned it. I mean, we cleaned the entire tank and started out with a dirted, natural aquarium. And I put the wood back in, and after a week or two, it started growing that, beard algae, the black beard algae on it. And I was like, told Father Fish, I'm like, is this okay? And I was like freaked out. It was just fuzzy
Yeah,
all the way across. It was growing too fast. So it's
it's
been fine. That
either
was
like
months
it or
ago.
you hate it.
Yeah, that was months ago. I
You
don't
either like
care
it
as
or you
long as it
hate it.
doesn't hurt
Right.
anything. So,
It's
Sketty
go ahead.
says, I'm having trouble getting my 55-gallon I'm having trouble getting my 55-gallon tank to sit flush on the stand. I leveled the stand first. What should I do next?
Styrofoam. Get a at least half-inch thick sheet of styrofoam. Put it on the stand. Put the tank on top of it. It'll level it.
Okay, does he say what kind of stand it is?
He does not. Sorry, I didn't realize.
Okay,
This is a
all right.
lady.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
All right.
My old,
It's Sketty Nona. So yeah.
How do you know?
That's a,
okay,
What are
so
you thinking, RJ?
okay, the first question is, if you level the stand itself, then the stand itself is bent. Now used to get that every now and then with those metal stands, the angle
Right.
iron one, and sometimes the aquarium will just straighten them out with the weight. Okay, that the angle iron would just kind of just reshape it with the weight and level out. If you level the ground so the stand is sitting level, the top isn't level, the other thing you can do is you can shim the aquarium, shim it on both ends. The aquarium's actually pretty good. Most aquariums are actually pretty good about side to side rigidity. A lot of people don't put support under the whole tank on a 55. They just support the two ends. So as long as you got your ends level, the middle can be up a little bit off of the stand.
It
So
sounds like what's happening. She got a 55-gallon sitting on a stand, and it's probably rocking a little bit. Now, with the old metal tanks, we didn't pay much attention to that because
yeah, but we took those down. We took those down after years, and they were warped like this. They just changed with the toe seals.
Absolutely.
I got a few of those over the years, and
Yeah, with a glass tank, you don't have the flexibility. You have some,
no,
but not a lot.
no,
Styrofoam
with the
really will help. If that's what you got, is a slight imbalance where it's just rocking a little bit. Put a sheet of styrofoam under it, and the styrofoam will level it out.
yeah, but if it's more than a little bit of rocking, shim the ends. Just work on the two ends, shim those.
You want to see a little bit more. Here's a little bit more. Look at the water level from one end of that tank to the other. Can you see that?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
It's 2 inches on one end and 1 inch on the other in a distance of 2 feet, 24 inches.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, it's not good at all.
It's not good.
I had my brother put a brace in it. He did, but I don't think he put a level on it when he did it.
Oh no,
Well-
no, no. The most worrying one I had was I have a stainless steel 55-gallon tank, and it was on a particle board stand.
Oh my God.
And I
Right.
started noticing that front to back, the water was 2 inches, and from the top and the front, and all the way up
Right,
to the top
right.
and the back. And I suddenly realized it had been leaking on the back. The particle board was dissolving, and the tank was going over backwards.
no.
Yeah, it was
So
coming at you.
So
I
you
was
know,
well, and it was a slate bottom 50. Think about the old 55s, the ones that took 3 people to carry.
Yeah, a lot
So
of
this was a slate bottom tank with all that stainless steel, all that tar, 3/8 glass front and back and sides. This thing weighed 110 pounds empty, plus 500 pounds of water in it.
right.
And it was going over backwards when I bought it. And it's like, okay, so much for my 55.
that's not good.
To add an amazing part of the story, I had it in my basement for a few years, and I'm riding my bicycle one day, and there is a 55-gallon angle iron stand just sitting there in a field.
Really?
Just in a field, it's just sitting there. No one around it, nothing around it. It's government property. It was an old toxic waste dump, and there's a brand new 55-gallon stand that someone just placed out there in the middle of the field for no reason. It was a heck of a thing to ride my bicycle home with a 55-gallon fish stand.
Really?
Yeah,
That's too funny.
that's how I got my 55 set up again. I was going to get to it eventually, but now that I had the stand, I had to glass line the bottom, then I glass lined it, and get a hood. And it's a nice tank. It's in my basement, unfortunately, where I can't get to it. But
See,
okay,
I can't stand when. So I don't mind if it's off a little bit front to back, where the back, has a little bit more, if it's lean forward or lean back a little bit. But if it's not level left to right, it drives me insane. I hate seeing more light or more space through one side than the other. I've got OCD or something.
it's also going to put a lot of odd stress on your sealer. You're going to wind up with a fish tank, especially the 10-gallon variety, the real thin ones.
Yeah.
They have double window pane in them, and those will leak if you don't have them properly level. Really, level the tank when you set it up, do it right, and then if you ever see it going off level, panic. Do something about it.
Panic.
Your floor's
I already
going
panic
down.
every time I look at the aquarium.
Your stand's dissolving. Something bad is happening if the aquarium's moving.
Right.
So having a good level, one of the things when we help people to set up aquariums, Father Fish has been through this, I've been through this. When you help people to set up aquariums, some people really want to do exactly what you tell them to do, and they really want to do it right. And between Father Fish and I, we probably have over 100 years of experience easily. And we're giving you advice from stuff that's happened to us. But people don't want to listen. They want to do their shortcut, and then things go terribly wrong. And, when someone tells you level the aquarium when it's empty, borrow a carpenter's level. Find someone who has tools.
Mm-hmm.
Marry somebody who can fix things, whatever, if you're a girl.
Right.
I'm old. I can get away with that. You don't try that, Luke. But
Yeah.
It's true.
don't try that.
No comment.
But get a level the aquarium. Do it the right way. Set it up right, and then it's going to last for decades. If it's a good aquarium, it might last 20 years.
Alec asks, if the floor isn't level, should you shim the stand? I don't know what the answer is,
Yes.
but that's what I do. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, the stand itself, depending on what the stand's made out of, it will conform to the shape of the floor. Especially the wood.
Right.
Even the angle iron will conform to the shape.
With the weight, it just slowly. People think of metal as something that's hard, And if you think of it, it doesn't matter how big of the piece of metal. If it's long, you know, it'll bend and move around. Metal's not solid.
It does, and you know, like I said, I've picked up a lot of used tanks through the years, and I've brought some home that I put down on a level surface, and these things were literally half an inch higher on one side than the others, especially the old Tor ones, the Tar metal frames. You know, the tank is a trapezoid or some other. I need someone who knows geometry to tell me what that shape is, where it has 6 sides, but none of them are 90 degrees. There's got to be a name for that.
So I'm going to say something that I'm sure you guys are going to tell me is a bad idea. And I don't know if I brought this up before, but I'd really like to get some acrylic and build a couple of my own aquariums.
Yes.
Yeah, I know it's a bad idea.
Okay.
Do it.
Okay, I can tell you how to do it. I can tell you how to do it.
It'll make you crazy.
Yeah, it will. But no, I know someone who does it. I knew a pet store owner that when those first
Oh, I do too. I knew guys that have done it.
yeah, no, when those first sump filters came out,
That's
he
right.
ran out and he bought the Lexan plates or acrylic plates, and he got the glue, not carbon tetrachloride. I forget what it is.
Yeah.
Someone will acetone will do it, but
Glen Burnie, Maryland, that built in. This is 40 years ago. He built an acrylic system. His whole shop. It was
Yep.
amazing.
Now the problem with it is, in the end, what you wind up with is an acrylic aquarium. Now, when you see an acrylic aquarium, and I've seen old ones. Unfortunately, you got to see one that's 20 years old to appreciate
Right.
it.
That's true.
They look like crap, and there isn't much you can do about them.
They craze.
They craze.
Is the problem.
They
You
scratch.
can't fix
They
it.
yellow.
Hootie Tang. Well, that's good. You jump right on that.
There you go.
Hootie
No, that's-
Tang. Are you
Hey there.
So
So, but the thing that I was saying is, if you work with glass, you need a good glass cutter. Don't cheap out. Go buy the $60 glass cutters or $55 glass cutter, whatever they cost. They're not cheap. Okay, there's one company still makes them in America, so you don't have to buy the Japanese ones. But if in doubt, buy the Japanese ones. They have a carbide wheel. It has to have a carbide wheel, and then cut your glass. You make a rig. I have a rig that I cut the glass. You get your 90 degrees. You don't have to create all the way, all that. No, you cut your glass, you get your 90 degrees, and then you set it up. You create a jig, and then you build your aquariums, and they will last for 20, 30 years. No scratches, no yellowing. No
yeah,
nuts.
so I thought about, so basically the reasoning behind it is we have an idea kind of for what we want to do in the living room when we move, and we talked about building a tall but narrower aquarium. So it's not super tall, but so it's tall and it's not very deep, to the wall. We want it to be basically for weight savings, probably more than anything, to narrow it a little bit. So that's the reason that this came up.
You're shortening the aquarium's life because of its height.
right.
I've got a couple 45s, and when my daughter was little, she'd run around the living room, and that would cause the tank to shake forward and backwards. And it only took about 2 years before the seams started splitting. So the deeper you go, the more pressure you put on your seam.
We had a really nice acrylic tank at the shop. It was 3 feet tall, 2 feet front to back, and 4 feet wide. That's 200 gallons, guys.
Yep.
It was a feast. And you could not reach down into the bottom because they had a top on it that had two about 14-inch holes.
Yep.
So that they could hold it together. But it was,
and there isn't a pet store in the world that didn't get one for free.
Yeah, I got it for free. Sold it
Right?
$100.
You got it for nothing.
I did. I got it for
That's how I know had one of those things. Yep. Every pet store I know had one of those things somewhere in the back because they thought it was a great show tank. They got it for nothing. And then they're sitting there, you know, with their feet dangling out of the tank, trying to reach the bottom, holding their breath. Yes.
great show tank. It really was.
They really are. But I've never seen one in the house. I've just seen them turn up at pet stores when the people
Yeah, really.
drag them in. But yeah, I've seen them. It's a beautiful tank. Father Fish is right. It is impressive. But you know the guys who use them, they have nets, really long nets. They have all these extension tools. It's a lot of work,
I had
you know. But
of substrate to get it high enough to be able to get down there and plant plants. And at that, it was
Holy
a
cow.
struggle.
Yep.
I couldn't do it with my hands. I had to do it with tools.
oh yeah,
See, I hate
Yep,
using a tool. As soon as I bump something and something else floats away, that can't happen very many times before I'm fed up with the situation.
once you go deeper than
Father
55
Fish.
gallons,
Hey, how are you?
you're into.
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Good. Nice to see you.
You too.
I've been looking to hear from you. You said you were working on a new piece of music for me.
Yeah, we're still working on the video you asked me for
No,
several months ago.
Well, I'm excited about it. I've been getting all kind of claims on about everything I've got.
Anytime there's any audio besides us talking, there's not a copyright claim, but a demonetization warning, basically.
Exactly, right.
Yeah. You join the video by going to, I'll post the link in the chat.
How'd you come on?
Somebody else asked, Ariana.
Oh. A girl can't fix things. I know a couple of girls that are pretty good at fixing things. She getting on RJ's.
Oh no, I'm kidding. My daughter is very good at fixing stuff and doing things. I remember when she was about 5 years old, my wife called her aside and said, "Sweetheart, don't ever fix anything. Don't ever work on a car or do any of that stuff. Don't let your father mislead you. There are men for that purpose." And she was wise enough to learn to do things herself.
Really?
I can't do anything for myself. That's why I was going to try to build an aquarium.
There you go. There's a nice, safe project that won't flood out your living room.
Yeah,
no risk.
Red light.
Much less
that.
Real nice.
Who's singing in the background?
That's my 6-year-old daughter.
Oh, how sweet.
Copyright strike.
I'll go ahead and mute that out.
What are those?
No, don't you dare.
Oh my gosh, what is that fish that just swam by? That big one. The goofy looking one. That one was pretty cool.
There's a bunch of Colombian tetras in here. There's this guy over here. I forget his specific genus. Then there's an electric blue Acara and a
look at that.
big boy, 10 inches.
Severum?
And he's only a year old.
Gold Severum. Such
Those are pretty cool. I like that one right there.
That's a blue
What is that?
How big's the tank for reference?
This is a 75.
Okay, thank you.
It looks pretty.
But at some point, I want to build a 300-gallon plywood in acrylic.
Oh no.
Acrylic and plywood.
I thought you were bad, Luke. This guy's really gonna go for it.
What
Acrylic
happened?
Plywood, yeah. That's a tough
No, no.
Acrylic
glass
and
and
plywood.
plywood.
Glass and
You know,
plywood, yeah.
Glass is not that expensive, and obviously it would
Really?
make more sense to do it with glass. I don't know why. I don't know
The
why.
problem is you can't stick the plastic to the plywood. The
Exactly.
problem is that silicone doesn't bond well to plastics and woods, and it'll do okay in fiberglass.
And
So if
the solvent that they bind acrylic together with will not work on wood.
yeah, so the problem that you've got if you're going to do wood, and I've seen wood aquariums. I've seen them that are pretty old, and they
Oh,
were
nice.
made in.
I had a 500-gallon that was made out of 2x4s and plywood with a 10-foot piece of glass in the front of it. It's amazing tank.
Glass is doable, but don't try. I mean, I would not recommend. There may be a way to do it. I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just that, to my knowledge, it's either not easy or you're going to wind up possibly going terribly wrong. So go with glass if you're going to do
It's
plywood.
not going to be as stable either. It'll have too much flexibility.
Brian asked, should anyone get freshwater clams? Why or why not?
No.
I like them. I like them.
Okay, the answer, my answer for no. Okay, and Father Fish will give you the yes. As in everything, there's two sides to it.
Always.
Right.
With a larger species of freshwater clam, there just isn't enough food in the aquarium to feed them. Okay, that's the simple fact of life. They starve to death. I've had them, and unless you're, unless you're,
but you know what? A lot of
you could theoretically, it depends on how big the tank is, but I've had them up into 55 gallons and just couldn't get enough. I suppose if I was to take some egg whites and blend it and create like a invertebrate food, and then or like the saltwater invertebrate food, coral food, that would work for the clams. But for an average aquarium that's relatively clean, that's got clear water in it, that's got fish in it, your clams are going to starve to death sooner or later. As much as I like
unless you have
them in
substrate.
lakes and ponds and such, it'll help. It'll help.
It does help.
It might work.
I've kept them. I've bred them. I've had clams breed in my tank.
How big were yours? How big was the
the small clams
species you were working with?
They were little nickel size, little guys.
No, the clams I was growing were 5 inches long.
What was the
They were
fishing?
freshwater clams.
Yeah. I've never tried to do big ones. I'd be afraid to.
Yeah, I couldn't get.
When they die.
Oh, they're lovely. I had them.
Rank.
Oh yeah, they'll destroy your.
What kind of fish is that?
Fast. You'll smell it. You'll smell it.
I think it's a Severum.
Yeah, red-shouldered Severum.
Yeah, golden Severum.
That's a cool fish.
I love it.
Yeah, you got cool fish in that aquarium, stuff that I haven't really seen.
When they get old, they get pugnacious. They're nice fish when they're little, but when they get old,
you're
they get.
using too big a word for me, so you got to tell me what that means.
Oh, they get nasty. They'll start chasing things around. They start out real nice when they're little, and they get along with about everything, and then they.
Well, I plan to get that way as I get older too. So.
Yeah, they've got a tendency once they hit a certain size to go, wanting to clear the other fish out of their territory.
What is that thing?
That is my bristlenose that killed all of my cories and my traditional pleco.
I want him. I got two females here that are looking for a mate. If you want to
That was
get
a
rid
weird
of them,
looking. That
I'll
thing is
take it.
cool.
I'm looking for a male.
That's so cool. I'm sure you have a bunch of unique stuff in your aquarium. That's interesting. And a pretty good size. How long have you had that aquarium going?
This one about 10 months. It used to be a 36-gallon bow front that I transferred everything over from.
Oh, right.
That's pretty
But
cool.
when I got this guy, I knew that wasn't going to work.
Does he hang out in the corner most of the time, or is that just like the lights are down and he's
When the lights come on is when he hides.
okay?
I don't turn the lights on very often because this is right by a window with a lot of natural light coming in.
Can you show the thing on the bottom, the bristle nose again?
Yeah. Let me get some brighter light too.
Oh, they're having a disco.
Right.
That thing. No. It doesn't want to be looked at.
There you go.
That's a Pleco. That's what they do.
You turn a light on. That's right.
So it's a bristle nose pleco then? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me see if I can come around.
Yeah, they're a really nice
That one.
community fish. Good
How
body.
big do they get?
That's about it. 3 to
That's
4
about
inches.
it. 3 to 4 inches.
3 inches. They're good out. They're decent algae eaters too, but they, as I recall, they can't take acid water. Something like that. I had them and the pH went down and they just died. I had about a dozen of them. I got them at someone handed me a bag. Someone handed me a bag of Plecos one day, and I brought them home, put them in my tank, and they all died. And I called them, said, "Why do they all just drop dead?" You know, and I was told that they don't like acid water.
I'm down to 2 females.
I started off with 3 of these electric blue Acara, but there ended up being a breeding pair, and
Right. They do that real good.
and then there was just
And they get
all out
pushy.
war in the tank.
Yep, that's the fun with cichlids.
Yep. And then
But
the parents ended up eating all 3 egg spawns that they had.
My Severum that I had one large one, and like I said, it got big and it got mushy, and it actually pointed out the worst flaw, one of the worst mistakes ever made in keeping fish, and that was putting a foot-long electric catfish in my discus tank.
Oh my God. You didn't.
Yes, I did.
Oh my God.
Yep.
And
Now,
what did you learn from that experience?
Why? What were you?
It was amazing. No, it was amazing. I'd had him for a few years, and he ate small fish, but there were no small fish in there. But otherwise, he sat around in his 29-gallon tank, just sitting there. And I wanted to put him in a bigger tank, so I put him in the discus tank, and lo and behold, he went into his cave. I built the cave, and he sat in his cave. And at night, he swam around when the discus were sleeping, and he didn't bother them. It was a wonderful arrangement. And one day, I'm sitting at the dining room table looking at my aquarium when the Severum drives one of my heckles, a full-grown heckle, into the cave. And all of a sudden, like a snowstorm, scales come flying out of the mouth of the cave.
Oh, no.
Just a snow of glittery heckle scale. Well, I pulled the heckle out from the cave. Didn't get shot doing it, but I got him out of the cave and he was cooked. He was literally looked like a fried fish.
Yeah.
That's when it was a perfect plan. And if no other fish ever went in that cave, it might have worked. It was a mistake. They could have.
Well,
it could have worked. It was
you should have had a sign.
That's a
keep out, keep
Yeah.
out, little catfish.
That's a
But and the discus didn't go into caves. It was perfectly wonderful. But the severum's chasing them around the tank and then chased them into the cave. And at this point, I'm already lunging towards the aquarium, diving for my net. And at that point, all I saw was scales come flying out.
And that kind of stuff only happens when you're looking at the aquarium too.
Yes, it did. And yeah, I've never had another. I've never had another severum. That was it. You know, it was just.
Rumor, you said electric catfish.
Oh yeah, they're beautiful. I love them. I had mine 20. I had mine 19 years.
Did you? I had a 4-foot electric eel.
I always wanted one of those. I envy you.
Yeah, I've had a number of them, but I had one that was a little better than 4 foot long. It chewed its tail. It would heel, and then it would bite it. It was like a dog chasing its tail. It would get going. It thought it was food, and it'd bite it and rip the flesh off of it, and then say,
I've
"Oh, that
decided-
hurt."
I've
Oh,
decided
God.
there's not much difference between dogs and fish,
Yeah, they're a lot alike. Oscar,
except for fish are less hairy.
Oscar
What?
dogs.
Yeah, I won't go there. Just won't go.
Ooh.
Oh, it's too funny.
You know, I mean, call me or get some video of you walking your fish, and then we'll talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Walking
Fish poop less.
catfish. do it.
Ariana says fish poop less.
Okay, here's a good one. Most reclusive fish you've ever had. Anyone want to have some fun with that?
Oh, wow. That would have to be something that you see and remember having put it in the tank a year or more before
At least,
and figuring it was gone.
right?
Ariana says my betta.
You're better. Other fish.
The
Something that-
Nerite snails when I had a saltwater tank.
Nereid snails. Okay, I'm going with bumblebee catfish.
That's a good
You,
one.
you throw them in the tank, and they will literally pack themselves
Yeah, there are a
into
lot
a
of
flood.
catfish that'll do that.
I'm going with the bumblebee. I had 2 of them. I bought one. 2 years later, I bought another one, and about 4 years later, I knocked down the tank, and I found both. So I literally had at least one for 5 years and didn't know it.
Loaches are another one that will
Yeah,
hide.
Glitch Aquatic says that. I don't know what that first word is, but loach is in a community tank. Yeah.
Coolie loaches, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mine would always come out for feeding eventually.
they do.
Yeah,
Oh,
I usually get.
I had a system. They're a hellacious fish to catch with a net.
Oh God!
There's a good one. What's the hardest fish to catch with a net?
Walking catfish. Walking catfish. You can drain the tank, and the sucker will still slide around the gravel, and just keep running around. Take all the water out, and this fish is still flying around the gravel.
Well, the other problem with catfish, like picoltas, is they have these barbs that are serrated, and they'll
Yep.
stick them in the net, and you can't get them out.
Nope, you're losing the net every time you
Can't
catch the
tear
fish.
the net apart together.
Mm-hmm.
Coolie loach.
So
The coolie
the-
loach is so fat, they're like grease
Yep.
lightning. I
They're
finally
not.
came up with a way to catch them. I catch them with a bucket and a 1/2 to 3/4 inch hose, clear plastic hose, and I siphon the suckers. And the reason it works is because if there's a current, they go toward the current.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
you get them, wait until they come up to the front and they're sitting at the front. I usually have that hose ready with my thumb on one end of it. I get it down close to them, lift the thumb, and start sucking. They shoot right up in it.
Oh my god.
That's
Uh,
worthwhile.
and
Congrats.
they
I
have,
like that.
they have a great
That's good.
story to tell afterwards.
Well, no, this is a fun part. You know, when you get around people, a lot of the folks who are just watching, okay, this is what if you're a member of a fish club or a fish community, this is kind of what we really do. We sit around and
That's right.
us old timers. You know,
Right.
what's the hardest fish you ever had to catch?
Right.
Or what, let me tell you a story about this particular thing. This is the dumbest thing I ever did, or the smartest thing I ever did. And we answer each other's questions. This is really what it looks like. So if you're hanging out at home and you're watching us, that's cool. Hi. Join in. There's links you can join in. Come to the Discord server, be part of the community. And you'll pick up a few odds and ends, might share a few fun anecdotes, and amuse, and we can, human beings used to talk in the good old days.
Yeah, right.
We didn't just sit on your side of the screen listening, so come join us.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So just talking about this video chat stuff on the internet, we have a customer that used they were doing a video chat for a meeting, and they were here in Michigan, but they had somebody connect in California, and then they also had someone connect in the Arab Emirates. And it's crazy that you can just connect to somebody that quickly from around the world and video chat.
That's
So
what makes it so much fun. It's really fascinating. I've talked to people on every continent.
Yeah. What's great is that we're actually reclaiming our humanity with video chat, because with this typing and texting to each other, yes, we compose more concise messages. We think them through before we send them. But we're losing that human contact, the ability to actually maybe not reach out and touch, but to communicate with one another.
And what's interesting is how many people really enjoy just watching and participating on kind of in the grandstands, if you will. And we got 20 people here right now who've been with us for practically 2 hours.
God bless you guys. I hope you're having fun.
Amen. Amen.
There's it's nice to have you with us. And for those who may watch this later, but the whole thing is we're having fun here, and join us, come to Discord, ask some questions, share some answers, post some stories, or join us in the chat one of these days, and actually be part of the conversation, be part of the community.
Right.
As fish people, the sad part is years ago, Rosario LaCourte, I mention his name every now and then, maybe more than I should, but he's just such a bigger than life person, and I know him. And he was telling me in the 1920s, people would gather together from all over the town, all over the city. They would travel for miles, and they would have more people at these meetings, swapping stories, showing pictures, bringing magazines. And it was a community around tropical fish in the 1920s.
Yeah, that's right.
And
can you imagine, like back then, especially if you don't have the internet, you don't have any more than what's in print, basically. At that time, I would imagine, and color print probably was hard to come by. You got to go to an aquarium, like an actual facility, and see these things from around the world that you would never get the chance to see. Everybody's spoiled to the fact that they can jump on the internet and Google something and see videos under the ocean, around a reef. That's insane.
It's amazing.
Back in the 60s, I was active in the Potomac Valley Tropical Fish Club, which is still around. In fact, they sponsor the annual catfish affair. There were people I got to know there who I visited, that we visited each other's homes. It was very much a social experience for us.
There are still fish clubs that meet in various people's homes. They roam every month into somebody else's home.
Yeah, the
Um,
Florida Killie Club does that.
yeah, so there are still clubs that do that, but the problem is, we've we've become a very solitary hobby over the years. And we live in our own little world with our own little fish, and we're changing our water, and we're taking care of our fish, and we're enjoying ourselves.
Well,
Yeah,
fish are easier to deal with than people. So
I
Yeah,
saw
usually.
somebody did a video of a guy's fish room in Australia last week or the week before. Probably the nicest fish room I've ever seen. 40 or 50 tanks, every one of them absolutely immaculate, planted tanks with very high end fish, a lot of Tanganyikas. And some of the Tanganyikas are really hard to keep. The guy said, the fellow who was filming it has a YouTube channel. And he found out about this guy and went to visit him and filmed his fish room. The guy said, "You're the second person other than family who's ever seen this. And I've been doing it for 40 years."
Yep, that's not uncommon. That's really not uncommon. That we are so solitary in our hobby. And one of the things you also have to keep in mind is that because you have an interest in something doesn't mean your kids or your wife will, or your
True
husband.
enough.
And so your husband or wife is going to have their own interests, you have your interests, and even though you're surrounded by people, they may not even look in your fish tanks or
Yeah,
really care
that's
what you're
right.
doing. So it's one of those things where, because it is a specialty interest, you're not going to get the kind of support that you really should have, moral support and
Right.
camaraderie in your own household
well,
that you can have.
that's why I think the 24-hour live stream is cool, because you would never get the chance to see an aquarium that's in somebody's home, how they've set it up or any of that stuff. And so that's something unique that you never get to see, other than maybe some pictures and videos here and there. Um, but now we've got like a half a dozen tanks rotating on there, and then oh, always Silver Creek Aquatics. He's got like a shed or something full of aquariums, and he moves the camera around for us every day, so we get to see different aquariums that he has throughout the day and stuff too. So it's pretty slick. It's pretty
That's
cool
nice.
to be able to see people's aquariums and what they've done.
Oh yeah, there's nothing. Many of us enjoy watching fish, actually, yes. But like I said, it's one of these nice things that I feel is it's been lacking in our hobby. We have an opportunity now through technology, Luke's special skills, um, to Father Fish's organizational talents, and me just kind of hitchhiking along. To answer some of your questions and to share a community with everybody. I like that. I think that's really a really great pleasure.
Well, and this is
So
totally different than what you get on a lot of the forums, because, as you're aware, the forums are full of hostility. They can be. It's very. It seems like the threads don't go very far before somebody jumps in that tells you that they know everything, you're wrong, and if you keep talking about other stuff, they're gonna ban you from the forum. I've seen a lot of
well,
threads like that on
You
the
know
fish
what's
forum.
interesting though? I don't get that.
No, but it's on the what one of the tanks is what is it? I think it's like Reef Tank or something, like Reef Dash Tank. But there's quite a few fish forums that I've stumbled across that are that way. There's a lot of crappy, not a lot of crappy people, I should say. There's a very few amount of crappy people, but they run everybody off. People come in asking genuine questions, trying to get their thing going, and if you're not spending a bunch of money on equipment, or doing it the way they think you should do it. They basically run you off and make you not feel welcome.
Yeah,
Well, but
Facebook is notorious for that.
see, by way of, I guess, justifying first of all why it happens. My roommate in college and I were at loggerheads as he replaced the air stones in his undergravel saltwater aquarium with power heads. They were getting clogged all the time. He was sick of it. He put power heads on, and I was of the camp and had read that air stones, and I was still running my air stones. Air stones aerate the water better as the water comes up through the column. And that's the right thing to use as air stones. Of course, air stones are better. And I was pretty convinced, and he was pretty convinced of his. And we were at loggerheads. And we're roommates, so we don't have a lot of room to avoid each other.
Side on this.
Okay, we don't have a lot of room to avoid each other. We're sleeping in the same bedroom in the college apartment.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we're at loggerheads. So we finally go up to Montclair to Ocean Gallery, and there's a guy there who's one of the first saltwater pioneers of the little cubes where you can keep the very separate fish in,
Yeah.
all built off of a maybe not invented, but came up with one of the first ones off of a massive sump system. And so we went and we both presented our arguments, and he listened and he refereed and he said, well, did you ever consider that sometimes there are two right answers? And we just stood there dumbfounded. He said, the worst arguments you're ever going to get into is when you have two right answers.
That's pretty good.
And we both looked at each other, and my aquariums are doing fine with air stones, and his are doing fine. Obviously, we're in the same apartment with our tanks are not more than a couple yards apart. And they're both running, and if you just walked in, you'd see both systems working perfectly fine, and yet we're in the middle of this battle which nobody will let go of. So what happens is you go into these forums and someone's going to tell you the only way to do this is X based on his experience, and he's right, it will work, but you've got the opposite experience and yours will work too,
right?
And now you're
People have a hard time with this, realizing there's multiple ways to solve the problem.
Yeah, we think there's two, right and wrong. There's only right and wrong. No, there's 50 different ways to do the same thing. And
Well, there's, to be fair, there's my easy way, and your
all the other ways.
That's what everyone says.
Yeah,
that's what everyone. My way is easy. Yours is hard. No, I know you. I know you. I know where you're going. There's all the there's the right way, there's all the other ways. Yeah, there's my way and there's everyone else's.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Yeah, no, like I said,
my concern, I don't. Guys who've been keeping fish for 50 years, they really do know what they're doing, and they're doing it in a way that I would not even begin to understand because they've spent 50 years getting there. I'm really interested in the brand new person who's trying to get a tank and keep some fish alive. And if I can help them by doing something simple and straightforward that's effective, man, I'm home free. That's really my concern. That's why I had a shop. So I could, and that's why I do this YouTube channel to try to reach new people because so many of them fail.
Yeah, think how many people you've gotten started with natural aquariums. I'm sure that people don't, we have no way to gauge that, but just from your viewership alone, if 20% of those people decide to actually do an aquarium that way, they're still running.
Right.
Anybody that said, so they didn't do the 3-month tank at the store where all your fish are dead in 2 weeks, and then you pour chemicals in it and you fight it and you're constantly, and then everything dies. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know how deep I am into this 10 gallon, but it's been a while.
deep substrate, if you do it reasonably right, is a lower maintenance. It takes more to set it up. There's no doubt about it. Day one is going to take a little bit. It's going to be a little longer than going to the fish store and buying everything in bags and taking it home and
dump
stuffing
a
the
bag of
plastic.
gravel in, right?
Dumping the bag of purple gravel and the plastic
Exactly.
plants, and that's you're not going to get that. You know, any kind of a natural system is not going to be that easy. But if I wanted to, if you tasked me with maintaining that plastic plant purple gravel aquarium, I can. It'll get a water change every week, without a doubt.
Yep.
I'll be mixing my water, you know,
Yep.
to make sure I got my parameters. I'll be changing the water at least once a week. I will be changing the filter constantly because the dirt's going to clog the filter because there's nothing breaking it down in the tank.
Yep.
I'm going to have to monitor the amount of light that it gets very carefully so that I don't build up weird algae. I'm going to wind up, you know, temperature correcting because there's no you know, substrate that's going to hold the temperature in the tank. I'm going to wind up working my ass off to keep that tank going.
And after 20 years, you're going to be convinced you know how to keep fish. And you know what? You're right.
Yep,
There's
I'll
no
pull it
way
off.
I
I
would
can
have
do it.
the aquariums that I have if I had to even do a water change or partial water change every week. That's too much work for that. I'm not.
I know guys that do it.
That's so I don't know. I don't have enough
No,
time.
I've been there,
I feel
40
like usually.
aquariums.
Right.
No, I've been there with 40 aquariums because
Yep.
they're breeding tanks. They get set up, they get knocked down, and you don't have, you know, you don't really have the room in a 5 gallon or 3 gallon or 2.5 gallon tank to do deep substrate. So you're in that rat race. And I was
Some of the
before
biggest
I
guys,
mentioned that.
some of the biggest guys on YouTube. I mean, 100,000 plus subscribers. They do water changes every week, faithfully.
Absolutely. And there's
I've seen some.
and by the way, I looked in one of my aquariums. It's on the kitchen counter, so it's easy for me to see. And the water's down 3 inches. Again, I've been on my back for 3 months now since I damaged my spine. And I'm walking again. Yay. Still can't stand on 1 foot, but other than that, I'm going up and down the stairs, and life is better. And I'm not in constant pain anymore. But I looked in this tank, and I've been throwing food in occasionally. And the water's down 2 inches in a 5.5 gallon tank, and there were 45 fish in that 5.5 gallon tank. And it dawns on me that tank is 8 months now, or almost 10 months without a water change.
Right.
It's deep substrate.
Amazing. And
All the fish are still alive. I don't think I can say the same for my bare bottom glass tanks. I haven't.
Yeah,
looked.
really?
Yeah. I have to. The Java moss is overgrown, so I can't really see what's in them. Hopefully, there's still fish there. But yeah. So the point that I'm making is that it's a different deep substrate. I use an inert substrate because of my water parameters, but it's deep substrate. And although I'm sure the nitrates are probably in the 50 to 100 level after 10 months, the pH is still holding apparently. Plants are still growing. They're climbing out the top. So I'm going along with the concept that, you know, it makes your life easier. I can't deny that.
yeah,
If you
exactly.
can,
And it gives you a stable environment.
yeah, it really
Plants
does.
in your house that you don't really have to water anymore. Then you're already adding water to it. It kills 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I'm just, you know, I mean, eventually I got to get back once I'm able to carry buckets of water around the house again. I'm going to start doing water changes. But in all reality, you know, you got to start. You got to look at. Here's 2 tanks. The other one I had a homemade denitrator running, and that one's also having the nitrates in to keep the water circulating. And deep substrate is a very good way to do it. Even my denitrator design works off to a larger degree,
Exactly.
a deeper anoxic system. So, it's one of those things where, if you want to make your life easier down the road, put in the work on day one.
Right.
Yeah, I
All
almost
right,
didn't.
gentlemen. We've been at this a couple of hours. We need to draw a line in the sand. Leave them wanting more.
For everybody in the live stream is well, for one, Silver Creek Aquatics, he just joined and he said sorry he's late. He's been busy with a new scape he's working on. Got plants today. Hardscape is done. Hashtag spooky tank.
We're looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, that'll be cool. He's on the 24/7 live stream there.
He's got his priorities right. He's working on his fish tank, not hanging out watching YouTube.
Right.
There you go. Everybody feel guilty. Go change the water or feed your fish.
So for everybody watching the live stream, we've switched things around a little bit. Hopefully the audio was better and the video was better tonight. I know that RJ still, we have to send him some better internet somehow, but other than that, I think at least we got video and audio out of him today.
Am I fading out?
Oh, really? Thank you all, guys. Really nice to be with you.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Be back Saturday night at 8 o'clock with EJ. Sunday night with Mary Page. Mary's been watching us from Facebook all evening. And then
we got to get her to join us. We need some. We need a pretty face.
I know. We'll be back here.
The numbers are going up for the finale here.
We're back here next, Monday? Monday and Thursday. We're doing this Monday and Thursday. So plan to join us. Love to have you in the chat. It's a very informal conversation. We're not focused on any topic. We're just hanging out and chatting. That's what Discord's all about. And it goes on 24/7, along with our 24/7 live stream. You can put your tank on that too, so long as it's a natural tank that you're trying to, set up and operate that way. We want to see it. So good to have you with us, Luke.
We'll get RJ going.
Luke has been amazing. He sent me a brand new computer tower that is light years ahead of the one I had. And I've still got a few bugs I got to work out, but he has saved the day in 50 different ways. Really do appreciate you, Luke. RJ, I'm so happy you're up and around and moving. I am looking forward to getting up and visiting you.
That'd be a lot of fun.
I got to get in the car and start doing some driving. I want to go see Hans. He's about an hour north of me, and you're about an hour north of that.
Vermeulen? Hans Vermeulen? Is that who you're talking about?
The discus guy.
Yeah, I think it's Vermeulen. I think I've run across him somewhere along the way.
He's in Rehoboth. He was in Baltimore, and I visited him there years ago. He's moved to Rehoboth.
We've had a few Maryland people come up we had a big auction some years ago. We had some Maryland folks come up. And so, yeah, I think, so I've run across, I think I've run across them. It's a small community in the end, at least of those of us who've been around as long as we have.
Right. God bless.
But hopefully we'll enlarge that. Oh, by the way, Father Fish is looking to find a local fish club, or just in case anyone out there knows of one. Where are you in Maryland?
I'm in Salisbury.
Salisbury, like the steak. So if you live somewhere, near Salisbury, you might, and you know where the fish club is, with him. Or he's going to be starting his own soon.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
You've got enough people there.
I gotta lose weight, get my health in shape, so I can get up, and move around, and I'm gonna open a little shop.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Like I said, I'm doing physical therapy now and rehab, and hopefully we'll be driving again soon. So, there's a lot that I've been missing. But
Right.
yeah,
Just
hey,
just don't look when you fill up.
Really.
yeah, I've got an old police interceptor, and these things are designed to be supported by a village, not by a person. Yeah, that's why they're owned by townships. Lots of taxpayers pumping gas into them 24/7. They're not meant for people like you and me who are going to pay $5 a gallon or $4 a gallon to feed it 20 gallons to run for 8 hours. That's not the plan. But yep, all in good fun. So hey, hopefully we'll see each other soon. We'll all be on Discord. Join the debate. There's don't forget there's a Lou channel there where we talk about all kinds of things like the trials and God knows what, the news, War and Peace, and all kinds of stuff, and we get to get into each other's
Twitter and Facebook.
Yep. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. We haven't thrown too many people out yet. Actually, well,
not many.
Not many.
You can't be mean. If you're mean,
Yeah.
we don't want you around.
That's about it. But otherwise, if you're going to propose an interesting argument or you're going to have your own side, we'd love to hear it.
Amen.
That kind of thing is fun.
Amen. Bye, all.
All right, guys. I'll see you.